Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel. I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I just would like to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. And some people I thank have inspired me. I hope they can inspire you as well. And we'll have links below this video to the other sites here. Rabbi Shalom Arush, Rabbi Lazer Brody, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Eli Mansour, Rabbi Lon Anavar, Rabbi Yuval Ovadia, Rabbi Daniel Asler, Nisan Baruch Black, Rabbi Michael Skobak, Jews for Judaism, Rabbi David Ashir, Rabbi Ron Ruvain, and Rabbi Yosef Chesney. So if you've never checked out this channel before, I will have a link below this video to my first video, which explains what M.L.M for the Soul means, what it stands for, and what I'm doing. So this is for the upcoming Parashat Shmini, and I call this Selfless Devotion, and this is from the weekly Parashat Insights by Rabbi Eli Mansour. So, Parashat Shmini tells of the events that took place on the 8th day. This is meaning the day of the 7-day Miluim process. That's the preparation they did, during which Aaron and his sons were prepared to serve as Kohanim. On this 8th day, Aaron and his sons served as Kohanim for the first time. The Torah introduces this section with the words, Vayehi Bayom Hashmini. It was on the 8th day. The Gemara in Masechet Megillah comments that the word Vayehi is an expression of tsa'ar, which is anguish, and is used as an indication of tragedy or distress. In this context, the Gemara comments the word Vayehi foreshadows the great tragedy that befell Bnei Israel on this day, as Nadav and Avihu, Aharon's two oldest sons, were killed by a heavenly fire after they brought an unwanted offering. Although this day began as a very joyous and festive occasion, the Torah uses the word Vayehi in reference to this day because of the tragedy that struck the nation. The Or HaChaim, Rav Chaim ben Attar, offers another reason why the word Vayehi, an expression of anguish, is used in this context. The Midrash teaches that Moshe Rabbeinu was to have served as the Kohen Gadol. As the greatest human being who ever lived, Moshe was certainly capable of serving all the different roles: prophet, teacher, leader, guide, and Kohen Gadol. However, this privilege was taken away from him as a punishment for his initial refusal to approach Paro and demand that he free Bnei Israel. When Hashem first appeared to Moshe at the burning bush and instructed him to lead Bnei Israel to freedom, Moshe initially refused, and so he was punished by being denied the privilege of serving as Kohen Gadol. Now, just as an aside, that I would just say, if you don't know this, is that because Hashem is like medak, what is it? The expression Hashem medakdek v'tzadikim b'chud hasar, that Hashem is much stricter with people that are righteous, the holy people, like a thin hair, meaning a little thing you do is going to cause a backlash, whereas most of us who will never get to his level in a infinity, we wouldn't be judged probably as harshly for something like that. That's just an aside, okay? So thus, Or HaChaim writes, the Torah uses the word Vayehi in reference to the day when Aharon began serving as Kohen Gadol. This was a day of great pain and anguish for Moshe Rabbeinu, who understood the great importance and precious value of the service in the Mishkan and desperately wanted to serve as the nation's Kohen Gadol, but needed to instead send his brother to assume this lofty position. And thus the word Vayehi expresses Moshe's distress as he relinquished the exalted position of Kohen Gadol to his brother. We can gain further insight into the significance of this verse and the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu by noting the other time in the Chumash when we find the phrase Bayom Hashmini, on the 8th day. In next week's parasha, which is Parashat Tazria, actually we're doing Tazria Matzorah, just as an aside, because when this email was from previous year, so we weren't doing the double, but we are doing that. So the Torah mentions the obligation to circumcise one's son on the boy's 8th day of life, Ubayom Hashmini Yimo B'sar Orlato, and on the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be removed. The commentators interpret the phrase Bayom Hashmini to mean that a Brit Milah should ideally be performed early in the morning on the 8th day and not delayed until later in the day. If so, then the term Bayom Hashmini here, in the beginning of Parashat Shmini, should be understood the same way, as indicating that it was early in the morning on this day that Moshe summoned Aharon and his sons and had them offer sacrifices for the first time. As difficult as this process was for Moshe Rabbeinu, he did not delay it one moment longer than necessary. At the crack of dawn on the 8th day, Moshe assembled the people and had the newly appointed Kohanim begin to serve. Moshe was so selflessly committed to serving Hashem, to fulfilling his role without concern for his own feelings and interest, that he rushed to have Aharon serve in his place. And that reminds me, if you remember some other places in the Torah where you hear someone who gets up at the crack of dawn was Avram Avinu when he was told to bring his son for an Akedah as a sacrifice. It says Avram got up, Vayash came baboker, like he got up right away, or first thing in the morning, and he took care of things, and he got everything started on his own, his donkey, whatever, anything he needs. So same thing, to do a mitzvah, like he was very, swift and zealous to want to do it right away. So when it comes to performing mitzvah, we must put our own interests and wishes to the side and do what we are required to do. Moshe's inspiring example teaches us that sometimes we need to make difficult sacrifices for the sake of fulfilling Hashem's will, and we must be prepared to make these sacrifices. Even when fulfilling a mitzvah is challenging, we must embrace the challenge as Moshe did and devote ourselves selflessly to the faithful service of Hashem. And I hope that we will all devote ourselves in a selfless way, and that we will all merit to live and see the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days, and rebuilding of our final everlasting Beit HaMikdash. Amen, and thanks for watching.